Sometimes death comes in the most unexpected ways, caused not by danger or disaster, but by a bad decision. In this video, we'll look at 5 more real stories of people who died in ways that were completely avoidable. These aren't just accidents. They're tragic examples of what can happen when simple mistakes turn deadly. It was August 26, 2012 in Kalispell, Montana. Randy Lee Tenley, a 44-year-old man known for his love of the outdoors, had lived in this quiet area most of his life. Friends called him Tater. He enjoyed hunting, camping, fishing, and boating. He was well-liked and had many close friends. But that Sunday night, he made a choice that no one could have predicted. Randy wore a camouflage ghillie suit, the kind used by military snipers to blend into natural surroundings. His plan was to walk onto the highway at night to pretend to be Bigfoot. According to his friends, he wanted passing drivers to believe they had seen the creature and report it. At around 10:30 p.m., Randy stepped into the southbound lane of U.S. Highway 93, just south of Rocky Cliff Road. There were no lights, no signs, and nothing to alert drivers. The suit made him nearly invisible in the dark. A 15-year-old girl from Summers was driving the first vehicle. She didn't see Randy until it was too late. She struck him, knocking him to the ground. Moments later, another car driven by a 17-year-old girl, also from Summers, came down the same lane and ran over Randy as he lay in the road. He suffered severe injuries and died at the scene. Emergency services responded quickly, but there was nothing they could do. One teenage passenger had minor injuries and was taken to the hospital, but the drivers were left traumatized. Police began an investigation. Trooper Jim Schneider from the Montana Highway Patrol spoke with Randy's friends. They explained that he was trying to pull off a Bigfoot hoax, not for fame or money, but just for fun. Trooper Schneider said, "You can't make it up. I haven't seen or heard of anything like this before." No 911 calls were made about a Bigfoot sighting that night. The only calls were to report the accident. Investigators considered whether alcohol may have been involved. Toxicology tests were ordered, though results weren't immediately available. Officers believed it might have played a role, but that was not confirmed. The ghillie suit, combined with the time of night, made Randy nearly impossible to see. Even with headlights, the suit would have blended in with the surroundings. On a forest trail, it might have worked, but on a highway, it made him nearly invisible. Randy's identity was released days later. Born on December 10, 1967 in New Martinsville, West Virginia, he moved to Kalispell when he was young. He graduated from Flathead High School in 1985. He had worked at Plum Creek for over 10 years and later at Mergenthaler Transfer and Storage for 5. He left behind a son named Hunter, his mother and stepfather, 3 sisters, a brother, and many relatives. His father, Earl Tenley, had passed away earlier. A private burial and public memorial were held on September 1st at Flathead Christian Center. The story spread quickly. Media across the country reported on the strange and tragic case. A man attempting a Bigfoot hoax had been hit by 2 teen drivers and died instantly. Even experienced officers said they had never encountered anything like it. Bigfoot sightings are often reported in remote forests, especially in the Pacific Northwest. Scientists don't support its existence, and most claims are seen as hoaxes or mistakes. One well-known video from Bluff Creek, California in 1967 is widely believed to show a person in costume. Randy's death raised serious concerns. If people continue faking Bigfoot sightings, it could lead to more danger. Some in the Bigfoot community even debated whether it would be right to harm such a creature to prove it's real. Others argued against it. But the more urgent issue was clear. What if the figure someone sees is not Bigfoot, but a person? That night it was. There's no record showing Randy had done this before. Some thought he may have, but nothing was confirmed. This would be the last time. The teen drivers weren't charged. They had no chance to avoid the crash, and officers said they weren't at fault. Randy wanted people to believe in something strange, but no one saw Bigfoot that night. Instead, 2 young drivers witnessed something they'll never forget, and a man lost his life in the process. It was May 21st, 2004, in Lake Jackson, Texas. Michael Warner, a 58-year-old machine shop owner, was found dead inside his home. To most neighbors, he seemed like a quiet man who kept to himself. But privately, Michael had been living with a serious problem, one that would end in a tragic and unusual death that shocked everyone who heard about it. Michael had struggled with alcohol dependency for years, but he couldn't drink the normal way. He suffered from ulcers and severe acid reflux, making it painful to consume alcohol by mouth. Doctors had warned him that alcohol could be dangerous, even life-threatening. Still, Michael didn't stop. Instead, he found a different method: rectal alcohol use. According to those close to him, Michael was used to enemas from childhood. His mother gave them to him regularly, and over time he began using them on his own. As an adult, he experimented with different substances. His wife, Tammy Jean Warner, said he had recipes for enemas, ranging from coffee to soap and eventually alcohol. When alcohol is absorbed through the rectum, it bypasses the liver's first filter and goes directly into the bloodstream. The effects are stronger and happen faster, and the body has no natural defense like vomiting to stop it. On the night of May 20th, Michael used two 1.5-liter bottles of sherry, more than 100 fluid ounces, administered through an enema. That's far more than most people could drink orally without severe consequences. Michael passed out sometime during the night, but the alcohol kept entering his system even after he lost consciousness. By the next morning, he was gone. Toxicology tests showed a blood alcohol level of 0.47%, almost 6 times the legal limit for driving in Texas. Investigators were clear. This amount was enough to end a person's life. Detective Lieutenant Robert Turner, who led the case, called the level extremely high, adding that people with that amount of alcohol in their system usually end up either in the hospital or the morgue. But the investigation didn't stop with the toxicology report. Michael's wife, Tammy, was arrested and charged with criminally negligent homicide. Authorities claimed she had given him the alcohol enema, even though she knew how dangerous it was due to his health issues. They believed she knowingly took part in something that led directly to his death. Tammy denied this. She told the Houston Chronicle that Michael had done it himself. She said he had always given himself enemas and that it was something he'd been doing for years. According to her, she couldn't have done it even if she wanted to. He was in control of the process. She also denied another accusation, destroying Michael's will. That allegation added another layer to the case, making people question her role even more. Some saw her as an enabler. Others thought she was being unfairly blamed. Tammy was released on a $30,000 bond and was set to go to trial in July. She faced up to 2 years in prison and a $10,000 fine for each charge if found guilty. Michael's death made national news, not only because of how it happened, but also because of the questions it raised about personal choices and responsibility. Toxicologists explained that rectal alcohol use isn't a myth. It's a real dangerous practice that can easily go too far. Since the alcohol bypasses the body's normal filtering system, even small mistakes can turn deadly. 3 years after his death, Michael Warner was given a posthumous Darwin Award, a satirical recognition given to those who lose their lives through extreme lapses in judgment. The website called it an astounding misapplication of judgment. The story continued to be talked about online. Forums like Slashdot explored the science behind alcohol enemas. Some were shocked, while others admitted the practice wasn't as rare as it seemed. Medical experts warned against it, stressing that it was unsafe and could be fatal. While parts of the story may sound strange or even absurd, the reality is far from funny. Michael Warner was a man dealing with addiction and health problems. He made a choice that his body couldn't handle, and it cost him his life. Tammy's role in what happened remains debated to this day. But one thing is clear. This was more than just a bizarre news story. It was a real event with real consequences, and it left behind questions that may never be fully answered. It was the evening of December 27th, 2024, in Marewa, a quiet suburb in Napier, New Zealand. The weather was warm, and families were enjoying the last days of the holiday season. But for one family, that night would mark the start of something they would never recover from. Rife Cotter was 33 years old. A father of 3, he was known in his community as kind, generous, and dependable. His sister Robin Rawiri described him as patient and humble. Rife was the kind of person who would go out of his way to help others, whether that meant diving for seafood to share or simply being there for his children. He also played rugby for the Eskview and Districts Rugby Football Club, where he was known for his speed on the field and his sense of humor off it. To his teammates, Rife wasn't just a player. He was a friend who made every moment better. At home, he was a dedicated father. His partner, Holly Tengahui, said he was the best dad and closest friend she could ask for. Together, they were raising 3 children, Amaya, Mitara, and Aotarangi. After his passing, a Give a Little page was created to support them as Holly faced life without him. That evening, Rife came across a mattress. It's unclear whether he found it or someone gave it to him. What we do know is that he decided to take it home. Without a proper way to secure it, Rife placed the mattress on top of a black station wagon and lay on it himself, hoping to hold it down with his body. He asked his cousin, 23-year-old Trinity Brown, to drive. Trinity agreed even though she had consumed alcohol earlier. The plan was simple, a short drive of just over 1 kilometer from the Marewa shops on Kennedy Road to a nearby residential area. As the car moved, the wind pushed against the mattress. Reef had no safety straps, just his grip and balance. Witnesses saw the unusual sight, a man lying on top of a moving car. But before anything could be done, things went wrong. Around 9 p.m., emergency services were called to Newfield Avenue. Reif had fallen from the roof and landed on the road. His injuries were severe. First responders arrived quickly, but he had already passed away. Police confirmed that no other vehicles were involved and that his injuries came from the fall alone. They collected the station wagon for evidence and asked the public for help to understand exactly what happened. On Sunday, 2 days later, police publicly confirmed Reif's identity. His family shared their grief online. Holly posted on Facebook calling him a loving dad, son, and brother, remembering his energy and humor. His rugby club also shared a tribute, saying he would always be part of their team. Then on December 30th, police arrested Trinity Brown. She was charged with reckless driving causing death and driving over the legal alcohol limit. Trinity was Reif's cousin, making the consequences even more personal. In February 2025, she appeared in Napier District Court and admitted to both charges. Judge Russell Collins described the incident as a preventable tragedy. He acknowledged her regret and the support she still had from family members. Instead of sending her to prison, the judge sentenced Trinity to 12 months of home detention and banned her from driving for 2 years. She was also ordered to avoid alcohol and non-prescribed substances and attend counseling. Judge Collins told her the best way to honor Reif's memory was to live responsibly and make sure nothing like this happened again. Reif Cotter's loss was deeply felt in Marewa. He was more than someone in a tragic story. He was a father, a teammate, and a loyal friend. Donations and messages poured in for his family. Police closed the case, stating clearly, no foul play, no other vehicles. Just one risky choice that changed many lives in seconds. It was February 8, 2020 in Mount Gambier, South Australia. Bradley Streeter, a 20-year-old from Lewiston, was out late that night with friends. They visited the Cave Garden Sinkhole, a well-known tourist spot famous for its scenic beauty, and a vertical drop of about 98 feet. The platform they stood on had served thousands safely over the years, protected by fencing and designed for clear views of the cave below. Bradley was known for being outgoing, energetic, and adventurous. He had a deep interest in mechanics, loved working with vehicles, and often bought, dismantled, and sold car parts online. He enjoyed off-roading, camping, and fishing. His mom, Mary Ann, described him as her heart, mind, and soul. A family friend said he had such a strong presence that even those who met him briefly remembered him. He had big plans to become a mechanic and had gone through at least 10 motorbikes by then. He loved spending time outdoors, working with his hands, and taking on new challenges. But on that night, one quick decision changed everything. Just before midnight, Bradley climbed onto the railing of the lower viewing platform above the Cave Garden Sinkhole. According to police, he was attempting a handstand on a narrow rail nearly 100 feet above the rocky cave floor. This wasn't the first time someone had taken a risk at that spot. In 2005, a man fell 33 feet trying to get closer to the edge and suffered serious injuries. In 2011, 2 others climbed into the sinkhole illegally and one had to be rescued and airlifted out. But what happened to Bradley would be the most severe. His friend stood nearby as he flipped upside down. Then he lost his balance. He fell. There was nothing anyone could do. Emergency services were called right away. Police, fire crews, and the state emergency service all responded. Inspector Campbell Hill got the call just after midnight. Someone had fallen into the sinkhole. He knew it was a job for the rope rescue unit. The cave gardens are part of an old volcanic system with steep rock walls covered in vines. A waterfall sometimes flows through it, and at night there's a light and sound show telling local Aboriginal stories. But for all its beauty, the sinkhole is also deadly. 9 fire crew members were involved in retrieving Bradley's body. The rescue took several hours and ended after 3 a.m. By then, he had already been pronounced deceased. Station Officer Rob Baker said recovering someone in situations like this is never easy, but it matters to the families. He acknowledged how challenging the operation was and mentioned that emotional support was offered to the team. Police confirmed there was no foul play. It was a heartbreaking accident. Friends began posting tributes as soon as they heard. One wrote, "I'll love you forever. You were the best mate." Another said, "Too many memories to count. I'll always remember our time together." A third wrote, "You were taken too soon. Fly high with your dad." That last comment referred to another loss. Bradley's father had passed away just 2 years before. Now, Mary Ann had lost both her son and husband. The local funeral home helped the family, and a fundraiser was launched to support funeral expenses. Mount Gambier's mayor, Lynette Martin, shared her sympathy and said the city might revisit its safety measures, despite the platform having been secure for years. Inspector Hill said responders and witnesses were deeply shaken. When told the reason Bradley had fallen, he was stunned. "He did what?" he reportedly asked. It was a split-second decision, one that may have seemed harmless at ground level, but from nearly 100 feet up it had fatal consequences. Bradley was full of life, with dreams and people who loved him, but all it took was one mistake for everything to change. Now the cave gardens are still open to the public. They remain quiet, peaceful, and beautiful. But for those who knew Bradley, the place now carries a heavy memory. It was the early morning of February 15, 2014, in Little Rock, Arkansas. Adrian Broadway, a 15-year-old high school student, was out with 6 friends. They were in the middle of a prank war with another teen, someone they'd known for a while. Months earlier on Halloween, that teen, the son of a man named Willie Noble, had pranked Adrian's group. Now they were getting back at him. They packed eggs, mayonnaise, toilet paper, and leaves into a car. It was all meant to be fun, just a harmless prank. At around 1 a.m., the group drove to the Noble house and smeared the condiments over a parked car in the driveway. That car belonged to Willie Noble. What followed wasn't something anyone could have predicted. Willie Noble, a 48-year-old man, didn't call the police. He didn't ask his son what had happened. Instead, according to authorities, he went back into his house and waited. Later, he told police he believed the teens would return and that he only wanted to scare them. About 45 minutes later, the teens did come back. They weren't planning another prank. They were likely just driving by. As they passed in a white Hyundai Sonata, Noble came out of his home holding a handgun. Without saying a word, he opened fire. Bullets tore through the car. The windows shattered. One bullet hit the driver, 18-year-old Deshoni Nelson, in the hand. Another struck Adrian Broadway in the head while she sat in the passenger seat. Nelson, bleeding, managed to drive the group to the nearest place he could think of, a come-and-go gas station. There they called 911. Paramedics rushed Adrian to Arkansas Children's Hospital, but her injuries were too severe. She was pronounced dead not long after. News of her death spread quickly through Little Rock. Adrian was known for her cheerful personality and energy. Friends described her as kind, funny, and full of life. That evening, a candlelight vigil was held in her memory. One of her close friends, Princess Pearson, said, "She was always smiling, always laughing. We were always just playing around, being goofy." Another friend, Lagia Bland, said through tears, "They were trying to be teenagers. Teenagers make mistakes. This was one of those mistakes." Online, the response was just as emotional. A Facebook memorial page filled up with messages from people who knew her and those who didn't. Social media was flooded with reactions. People were stunned. What had started as a harmless prank had now turned into something irreversible, and the person responsible wasn't another teen, it was an adult. Willie Noble was arrested the same day. He faced several charges, including 1 count related to Adrian's death, multiple counts of endangering others in the car, and using a firearm during the incident. His bond was set at $1 million. Noble told investigators he only wanted to scare the group and didn't intend to hurt anyone, but the facts didn't support that. The teens were already leaving when the shots were fired. The damage to the car showed he had aimed directly at it. The passenger side was full of bullet holes. Police confirmed the teens had not tried to enter the home or confront Noble. They had only vandalized the car and were driving away when he shot at them. During the trial, Noble's defense said he acted out of fear and had the right to protect his property. Arkansas law allows for the use of force under certain conditions, but this case pushed those limits. He was found guilty. The court convicted him on all charges. He was sentenced to 30 years in prison. Noble later appealed. His legal team argued that the specific charges didn't fit what happened. But in April 2017, the Arkansas Supreme Court upheld the conviction, stating that the evidence showed Noble's actions caused Adrian's death. One justice did disagree, believing the law was misapplied, but the ruling stood. Adrian's story didn't come from a planned act of violence. It came from a decision. A moment of anger that changed everything. The prank had been childish but not harmful. The response, though, was deadly, and that moment left a permanent impact on Adrian's family, her friends, and the entire city of Little Rock.